Hello and welcome back. This is just a quick-ish video about Boss pedals and about power. Now sometimes you see on pedals, especially the older ones, you see this ACA adapter only. Whereas on other pedals you see use Boss PSA adapter only. And in some instances you might buy a used pedal and there's no sticker on it. So we don't know what power to use on this. Now, there is another problem in that with ACA adapters, they are technically 12 volts. But if you go and put a 12 volt power supply into a pedal that's already been adapted for 9 volts, and that means that internally you can have a jumper wire across 2 points on the circuit board. Unless you're really experienced in looking at circuit boards, you might not even be able to spot a jumper wire. It depends how much training and electronics experience you have. But I was going to show you another way of kind of giving you an idea whether a pedal is 12 volts or 9 volts. And that is because every pedal has an LED. And Boss pedals can be run from batteries. So you can see on the readout whether the pedal is, when it's running on 9 volt, and then you can then plug a power supply into it running at 9 volt, and then you can see if there's a difference in the light, the LED, and that's this here, the LEDs. A general rule of thumb is that a pedal that needs to run on 12 volts is running at 9 volts. It'll be underpowered, therefore the circuit will be starved. The pedal may not even operate correctly. It may, especially this one here, the Boss DM2. This pedal, when underpowered, behaves very oddly, and that's because the more you need to use the pedal and utilize the delay time, it'll work for the very shortest times, but then when you change the actual delay time to a longer, up towards 200 milliseconds, 250, and then to the full 300 milliseconds, it just won't work properly. And the way to do that, obviously, is to open up the battery compartment and then hook up your 9 volt battery. And the reason I discovered this was because years and years ago, I bought one of these pedals, the DM2 used. I mean, we're talking about in I guess it was the 1980s. And I had an actual power supply for it, the correct power supply. And one of the complications about these pedals is when you use a daisy chain, and let's say you have your daisy chain plugged into, when the early days we used to do it, we used to put it into the PSM5, which is a PSA adapter power pedal. They used to give you stern warnings, not to use any other power supplies with these pedals. So now I'll just plug the jack in to here. So when you turn the pedal on, you get a readout on the LED. So you can see that's the pedal running on 9 volts as it should be. Even though it's a 12 volt pedal, there's a bypass here, and there's a clever step down circuit. The 9 volt standard power supply for guitars wasn't really in effect. So you could power this from a 9 volt battery and it's running at 9 volts correctly. When you run through a daisy chain and you run through 9 volts, by the time you get to this pedal, it will be running at 9 volts and it will bypass this 12 volt circuit. Now, the way to see whether this pedal is running at 9 volts or 12 volts using a power supply. So here's my power supply. In this instance, and I'm switching the pedal on and off, the pedal won't even light up. So that means I'm pretty sure that this pedal is a 12 volt pedal. Actually, I know it is, but that's one way of deducing. Now, on another pedal, and I'm going to take my CS3, I'm going to plug the battery into it, like before. And as I say, this is one of the ones that doesn't have any label on it. So is it 12 volt or is it 9 volt? So I've got the pedal plugged in, so I've got enough that I can just switch the pedal on and off. So I've got a light, and that's running from battery. So now if I plug my 9 volt power supply in, now the 9 volt battery is running at the correct power, but when I plug the 9 volt power in, the pedal will then be running at the 9 volts when it's expecting 12 volts. It's expecting 12 volt power supply. So can you see the difference in the color of the light? The pedal is on, the pedal is off, the pedal is on, I unplug the power, and now the LED is running brighter. And that means that I can pretty much guess that this was running at 9 volts. Obviously I know it's 9 volts on the battery, but it's running at 9 volts on the power supply. When you run through an adapter, it should be seeing 12 volts. A word of warning here, don't plug your pedal in if you're not sure of anything electrical. Take it to a friend, take it to an engineer, take it to a shop. Try it with all the correct things, because these old pedals may have been modded for 9 volts and someone may have put some kind of safety warning on here and it could have got lost. You know, it's the sort of thing that owners don't tell you about. Like when you buy on eBay or whatever, I've noticed that people aren't very diligent. So what I'm going to do now, here's the Boss CS2, ACA only. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, let's plug. You have to have a jack in the input. So there you go, nice and bright LED. What happens when we put 9 volts in there? The LED changes. So it's a dim LED, a bright LED. So that now is running on the correct 9 volts, but plug a 9 volt adapter in there and it's running a lot shallower. It's probably difficult to tell on the actual video, but that's nice and bright, that red. I'm trying to find an angle where it really shows. See where that's running really, yeah, that's darker, brighter. So this pedal is 12 volts when you use it with the power supply. So that's a test that will basically give you an idea whether your Boss pedal is a 9 volt or a 12 volt type, one of the old types. And obviously the documentation should tell you, but you don't know. You go and get a 12 volt old Boss pedal from eBay. Someone's converted it. The next owner sold it, forgot to say that it's been converted. Whatever happens along the line, you need to be able to make sure that you don't blow your new pedal up, you know, because you might get a CS2 or a C3. You might try and plug a 12-volt power supply in there thinking it's the right thing. You can damage your pedal. Not to say that the damage would be irreparable, because there are ways of changing the diodes out and everything, but you do need to know what you're doing, or send it to an engineer and have all of that hassle. So take care when plugging in power to some of these old pedals. And anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.